The day my parents wired $150,000 to my sister's Paris bank account was the same day my college acceptance letter arrived. I stood in our kitchen, holding that envelope from State University while watching my father type numbers into his laptop. Each keystroke felt like a nail in my coffin. My mother, Judith, had her hand on my sister Camille's shoulder, both of them glowing like they'd won the lottery. "There," my father said, hitting enter. "The first semester is covered. Fashion school in Paris, baby. You're going to make us so proud." The unopened letter in my hand suddenly weighed 1,000 pounds. Let me back up. I'm Renee Marshall, 18 years old, valedictorian of my class, 3 years of night shifts at a grocery store to save for college, the daughter nobody saw. That dinner started like every other family meal, with Camille at the center. She'd been talking about Paris for months, showing us glossy brochures of fashion schools that cost more than most people's houses. My parents ate it up. Every word, every dream, every ridiculously expensive detail. "Renee, pass the salt," my mother said without looking at me. I slid it over and cleared my throat. My acceptance letter came today. Silence. My father kept scrolling through his phone. My mother was fixing Camille's hair. Only Camille glanced at me, a quick smirk crossing her face before she looked away. "That's nice, dear," my mother finally said. "Where was it again?" "State University, for their architecture program, the one ranked third in the nation." My father looked up. Finally. Hope fluttered in my chest for exactly 3 seconds. "Architecture? Renee, you've always been the practical one. That's a hobby, not a career, not like what Camille's doing. Fashion is art, it's legacy." My mother nodded. "You don't have Camille's spark, sweetheart. Some people are meant for big things. Others are meant to be steady, reliable. You understand, right?" The word steady hit like a slap. "I need help with tuition," I said quietly. "Just the first semester. I've saved most of it, but I'm 2,000 short." My father laughed. Actually laughed. 2,000? Renee, we just invested everything in Camille's future. You're smart. You'll figure it out. You always do. Besides," my mother added, reaching over to touch Camille's hand, "not mine, never mine. We have to put our resources where they'll grow. Camille's going to be someone. You'll be fine doing whatever it is you do." That night, after they'd opened champagne to celebrate Camille's journey to greatness, I found something that changed everything. My father's office door was open. His computer was still on. The bank statement was right there. My college fund, the one they'd promised since I was 7, was empty. Transferred to Camille's account 6 months ago. Every penny I thought was mine had become hers. If you've ever been told you weren't worth investing in, comment where you're watching from, and hit subscribe, because what I did next will show you exactly how the steady daughter became the only one left standing. They'd been choosing Camille over me since we were kids, but I'd been too blind to see the pattern. When I was 12, I won the state science fair. My parents didn't show up. Camille had a dance recital that day. When I was 15, I got into the National Honor Society. The certificate sat on the kitchen counter for 3 weeks before my mother threw it away, thinking it was junk mail. But when Camille got 3rd place in a local beauty pageant, they framed that sash and hung it in the living room. The morning after the Paris announcement, I did something I'd never done before. I went through my father's files. What I found made my stomach turn. Not only had they emptied my college fund, they'd taken out a loan, using my credit, my social security number, my future earning potential, all leveraged for Camille's Parisian fantasy. The documents were all there, photocopies of my birth certificate, my social security card, even my part-time job pay stubs to show I had income. They'd forged my signature on a $30,000 student loan application. The money was already gone, sent overseas to secure Camille's apartment near the Champs-Élysées. I took photos of everything, every document, every transfer, every forged signature. Then I found the email that broke me completely. It was from my mother to my aunt. We're so blessed with Camille. She's our legacy, our pride. As for Renee, well, she's helpful around the house. Not everyone can be special. Helpful. That's what I was to them. The one who did dishes while they planned Camille's future. The one who worked nights to buy my own textbooks while they bought Camille designer luggage for Paris. I printed that email and added it to my growing pile of evidence. 3 days later, at Sunday dinner, my mother made her announcement to the extended family. Camille's going to Paris to become a fashion designer. We're so proud. We've invested everything in her future. My uncle asked, "What about Renee? Isn't she starting college too?" My father waved his hand dismissively. "Renee's practical. She doesn't need our help. She's not like Camille." That's when I knew. I wasn't their daughter. I was their convenience. And conveniences? They're disposable. The breaking point came on a Tuesday night in May. I'd just gotten home from my shift at the grocery store, exhausted and smelling like produce. My parents were in the living room with their financial advisor. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but their voices carried. "We could co-sign a loan for Camille's second year," the advisor was saying. "Your credit is still good enough." "Do it," my father said without hesitation. "Whatever Camille needs." I walked in. "What about my tuition? I start in 3 months." The advisor looked uncomfortable. My parents looked annoyed. "Renee, this doesn't concern you," my mother said. "You're planning Camille's second year when you won't even help with my first?" My father stood up. "Watch your tone. You should be happy for your sister's opportunities." "What about my opportunities?" "What opportunities?" He actually looked confused. "Renee, let's be honest. You're not Camille. You don't have her potential, her beauty, her charisma. You're steady, reliable, the kind of person who gets by just fine without help." "You mean the kind of daughter you don't have to love?" The silence that followed told me everything. My mother finally spoke. "That's not fair, Renee. We love you." But love and investment are different things. We invest where we see returns. Returns. I was a bad investment. That night, I made a list. Every sacrifice they'd made for Camille. Every opportunity they'd denied me. Every time they'd chosen her. The list filled 3 pages, front and back. At 3:47 a.m., I packed everything I owned into garbage bags. My clothes, my awards they'd never hung up, my acceptance letter they'd never celebrated. I left my house key on the kitchen counter, right on top of that unopened college letter. Next to it, I placed a note with just 4 words: "I am worth more." The security camera by the front door recorded me walking away. My parents had that camera installed to protect their valuables. They never checked the footage. They didn't notice I was gone for 3 days. When they finally called, I didn't answer. My new life started in a studio apartment with a broken heater and a view of a dumpster. While Camille posted photos from the Eiffel Tower, I was pulling double shifts at a diner and a gas station. While she uploaded videos of Paris Fashion Week, I was studying at community college between cleaning office buildings at night. My meals were leftover fries and expired sandwiches from work. Hers were champagne brunches my parents funded. The Facebook posts were the worst. My mother: "So proud of our daughter, living her dreams in Paris." My father: "Investing in Camille's future was the best decision we ever made." Not daughters. Daughter. Singular. But something interesting happened during those brutal months. My community college professor, Mr. Chen, noticed me sketching building designs on napkins during break. "These are good," he said. "Really good. You ever think about entering the state design competition?" "I can't afford the entry fee." He paid it himself. "Consider it an investment," he said. "I know potential when I see it." Potential. The thing my parents said I didn't have. 6 months later, I was washing dishes at the diner when my phone rang. I'd won the competition. The prize included a scholarship to finish my degree and an internship at Brennan Construction. My new boss, Caleb Brennan, looked at my portfolio on my first day. "Where did you study before this?" "Nowhere special," I said. "Well, somebody missed out. Their loss is my gain." That night, Camille posted another sunset photo from Paris. I posted nothing. I was too busy building. 3 years can change everything. By 21, I wasn't washing dishes anymore. I was signing contracts worth more than my parents' lifetime earnings. It started with one abandoned building. Caleb let me redesign it as a side project. I turned a crack house into 3 affordable luxury units using reclaimed materials and smart design. Someone filmed the before and after. 5 million views in a week. My phone didn't stop ringing. Marshall Designs was born from that viral moment. Within 18 months, I had 12 employees and a waiting list of clients. The 7-figure contract came from a tech company wanting sustainable housing for their workers. I signed it the same week I saw the news. Camille's Parisian fashion house had filed for bankruptcy. Her Instagram went dark. My parents' proud posts stopped. That's when I did something petty, maybe even cruel. I bought the house, not just any house. The house, the one my parents had refinanced to fund Camille's dreams. They'd lost it to foreclosure 6 months earlier. I paid cash. I was standing in what used to be Camille's room when the text came through. "Your mother isn't well. We'd appreciate if you could visit." 4 years of silence, and that's how they reached out. I stared at my father's text for exactly 47 minutes. No, hello. No, how are you? No, we miss you. Just a request for my presence because they needed something. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. So many words wanted to pour out. Years of anger, hurt, disappointment. Instead, I typed 3 letters. No. Then I deleted them. Typed them again. Deleted again. A memory surfaced. My 17th birthday. They forgot it completely. Too busy planning Camille's graduation party. I'd bought myself a cupcake from the gas station where I worked. Sang happy birthday to myself in my car. My mother had found out a week later. "Oh, Renee," she'd said, barely looking up from Camille's college brochures. "You know we love you, but you're not the kind of daughter we celebrate. You're the kind we depend on." Depend on, not celebrate. I typed no one final time and hit send. But curiosity is a powerful thing. That weekend, I drove past my childhood home. The manicured lawn was overgrown. A for sale by owner sign leaned against the mailbox. My father's Mercedes was gone, replaced by a 10-year-old Toyota. How the mighty had fallen. If you're watching this and you've ever been treated like the backup plan in your own family, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what happened next proved that sometimes the best revenge is becoming everything they said you couldn't be. The following Monday, I got an unexpected email from Marcus, Camille's ex-husband. "Renee, you don't know me, but I know about you. Camille talked about you more than you'd think. Not kindly, but I've been following your success. There are things about your family's situation you should know. Things about why Camille really came back from Paris." My finger hesitated over the delete button. Then I clicked reply. Marcus's email changed everything. My mother didn't just have a cold or the flu. She had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, terminal, 6 months, maybe less. "They're broke," Marcus wrote. "Your father lost his job 3 years ago. They spent everything on Camille's failed fashion ventures. Now they can't afford your mother's treatments." I shouldn't have cared. They hadn't cared about me. Yet a week later, I found myself walking through the doors of Mercy Hospital, wearing a custom navy suit that cost more than my father's monthly salary. The click of my heels against the linoleum floor announced my arrival before I even reached her room. My mother looked small in that hospital bed. Her cheekbones jutted out where her face had hollowed. Her eyes, though, they widened when she saw me. "Renee," she whispered, "you look successful." I stood at the foot of her bed, not moving closer, not reaching for her hand. "I am what you said I'd never be." My father sat in the corner, hunched over, older than his years. He couldn't look at me. "The doctors say," my mother started. "I know what they say. I've seen your charts." Silence stretched between us. "Camille is still in Paris," my father finally said. "She's too busy with Fashion Week to come back right now." I almost laughed. Too busy for her dying mother? How convenient. My mother's voice trembled. "We always knew you were the reliable one." There it was again. Reliable. The consolation prize of daughter qualities. "The treatments are expensive," my father said, staring at his shoes. "Our insurance doesn't cover everything, and after what happened with the house." He didn't finish. He didn't need to. The request hung in the air between us. "I'll pay for a private nurse," I said. "Full-time care. The best oncologist in the state, but I won't stay." Relief and shame fought for control of my father's face. "Why would you help us after—" My mother couldn't finish. I looked at her directly. "Because I'm not you. I don't measure kindness by what I'll get in return." As I turned to leave, my mother called after me. "Renee, please stay. I want to—" "Make peace?" I finished for her. "You had 18 years to make peace with who I was. You don't get to make peace with who I became just because you need something from me now." I paid the hospital bill on my way out. $147,000, almost the exact amount they'd wired to Camille for Paris. The real estate listing called it the Wellington Estate. I called it my message. $5 million, 7 bedrooms, private lake access, smart home technology throughout, the most expensive property in the county. My interview with Architectural Digest ran the same week I closed on the house. The photographer captured me standing on the grand staircase, floor-to-ceiling windows framing mountains behind me. "Renee Marshall, America's youngest self-made design mogul," the headline read. The writer had asked about my family. I'd been honest. "I built my company without financial support or connections," I told her. "My parents believed my sister was their only legacy. I proved them wrong." The article went viral in my hometown. People who'd known my family for years suddenly had questions. At their church, the pastor's wife cornered my father after service. "Edward, why didn't you tell us Renee was so successful? We've been hearing about Camille all these years, but Renee is the one in magazines." My cousin told me my father had mumbled something about being just as surprised as everyone else. I knew the exact moment Camille saw the article. My security system alerted me to someone parked outside my gates at 11:43 p.m. on a Tuesday. The camera footage showed a rental car, hazard lights blinking. Through the night vision camera, I watched my sister, thinner, older, her designer clothes replaced by jeans and a worn sweater, press her face against my property's gate. She was crying. Her phone was pressed to her ear. I increased the audio. "Dad, it's not fair," she sobbed. "How did she get this? She was nothing. You said she'd never amount to anything without your help." I couldn't hear my father's response, but Camille's voice rose. "You promised I was the special one. You promised Paris would make me famous. Now look at me, divorced, in debt, and she has a mansion. What about me? What about everything you promised me?" She hung up and slid down against my gate, head in her hands. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. 2 days later, my assistant intercepted Camille trying to get into my office building. "Ms. Marshall doesn't take unscheduled appointments," she told my sister. "She'll see me," Camille insisted. "I'm family." My assistant followed protocol. "Ms. Marshall said especially not family." The security footage showed Camille's face contorting with rage. "Tell her she owes me," she hissed. Tell her none of this would have happened if our parents hadn't chosen me. Tell her this is my life she's living. I watched the footage 4 times. Then I had my assistant send Camille a job application form. Camille showed up at my office on a Tuesday morning. I watched her through the security monitors as she charmed the receptionist. That same smile that had worked on our parents for 20 years. Except now it looked desperate around the edges, like makeup applied too heavily. "I'll see her," I told my assistant. "In the conference room. Record everything." When I walked in, Camille stood by the window, looking out at the city. She'd put effort into her appearance. Hair freshly colored, makeup carefully applied. But her clothes were cheap knockoffs of designer brands. I could tell the difference now. "Nice view," she said without turning. "Must be nice to look down on everyone." "What do you want, Camille?" She turned then, eyes instantly filling with tears. The performance had begun. "Is that any way to greet your sister?" Her voice cracked perfectly. "I've been through hell, Renee. Paris wasn't what Dad and Mom promised. Marcus left me for a model. The fashion house went bankrupt. I lost everything." I stood perfectly still. "And?" Her face twitched. This wasn't going according to her script. "And?" she repeated. "Renee, we're sisters. Blood. That has to mean something." "Did it mean something when you watched them empty my college fund for your Paris dreams? Did it mean something when you smirked while they told me I wasn't worth investing in?" She stepped closer. "We were kids. I didn't understand what they were doing. You were 20. I was 18. We weren't kids. I've changed," she whispered. "I need help getting back on my feet. Just a loan or a job. Anything." I removed an envelope from my jacket and slid it across the conference table. "Here's an entry-level application for the design department. Starting salary is $45,000. Benefits after 90 days. Camille stared at it. "Entry-level? Are you joking? I'm your sister. You're an applicant with no relevant experience and a failed business." Her mask cracked. She grabbed her coffee cup and hurled it against the wall. Brown liquid streaked down my white paint like blood. "You owe me!" she screamed. "None of this would have happened if they hadn't chosen me. They gave me everything and left you nothing. You should be helping me." I didn't flinch. "You're right. They gave you everything, and look at us now." "I was their favorite," she hissed. "And that was the worst thing that ever happened to you," I replied. "You never had to build anything yourself. So when Paris failed, you had nothing to fall back on. No skills, no resilience, no self-worth outside their praise." She lunged at me, but security was already opening the door. "The application expires in 48 hours, I said as they escorted her out. "Your choice." Later that night, I backed up the security footage to my private server. Labeled it insurance. Camille took the job. Pride bends when bank accounts empty. She showed up on her first day with false humility plastered across her face. Thanked me in front of everyone. Called me her brilliant sister. She was good. If I hadn't known her, I might have believed it. But I knew her. So I assigned her to work under Diana Voss, my toughest manager. "Watch her," I told Diana privately. "Document everything." For 6 weeks, Camille played the perfect employee. She arrived early, stayed late, learned our systems. Asked intelligent questions about our client base. The mask was flawless. But Diana noticed things. Small inconsistencies in Camille's work. Files accessed that weren't related to her projects. Late-night logins to our design database. "She's gathering intelligence," Diana told me over lunch. "Not to do her job better, for something else." Then came the financial discrepancies. Small at first, expense reports slightly padded, client billing information misrecorded. Our accounting team flagged them as potential errors. I knew better. "Install a keylogger on her computer," I instructed our IT director, "and a camera facing her desk. The footage came to me 3 days later. Camille, after hours, photographing client lists, downloading proprietary design templates, copying contact information for our biggest investors. Most damning of all, an email to a commercial real estate agent about office space for Marshall Sister Designs. My name, my reputation, my client base. She planned to steal it all. That night, I read the email she'd drafted to my top clients. As the true creative force behind the Marshall design philosophy, I'm excited to offer you the authentic experience without the corporate overhead costs. She'd gone from begging for a job to planning a coup in less than 2 months. I called an emergency board meeting for Friday morning, didn't tell Camille. Then I emailed my father. You might want to be at Marshall Design headquarters Friday at 9 a.m. Your favorite daughter will need a ride home. Then I sent Diana a message. Gather all evidence of Camille's activities, every email, every login, every discrepancy. We're going to need it all. It wasn't personal anymore. It was business. And in business, I never lost. Friday morning, 9 a.m. The boardroom was filled with every senior executive at Marshall Design Group. Coffee cups, notepads, and grim expressions. On the projection screen, a simple title. Security and Financial Audit, Employee, number 247. Camille walked in 5 minutes late, coffee in hand, looking confused. Sorry, She froze when she saw me at the head of the table. What's going on? Please sit, I said, gesturing to the empty chair at the opposite end. We have some matters to discuss. Diana handed each board member a folder, red, sealed. Confidential stamped across the front. Open them, I instructed. As pages turned, faces changed, eyes widened, heads shook. Then all eyes moved to Camille. Would you like to explain these discrepancies yourself? I asked. Or should we walk everyone through them? Camille's cup trembled in her hand. What discrepancies? The next slide appeared, screenshots of her email to clients, photos of her copying files, bank transfers of company funds to her personal account, the domain registration for marshallsisterdesigns.com. The evidence was methodical, overwhelming, irrefutable. Camille shot to her feet. This is a setup. She's framing me. She's been jealous of me our entire lives. That's when the conference room door opened again. My father stepped in, followed by my mother in a wheelchair, thin and pale from chemotherapy. Mom? Dad? Camille's voice cracked. Thank God you're here. Renee is trying to destroy me. My father looked at the screen, then at the open folders. Years of parental favoritism couldn't blind him to the truth displayed in high definition. What have you done? He whispered. Nothing you didn't teach her, I replied. You taught her that rules don't apply to the favorite child, that taking what isn't hers is her birthright. My mother wheeled closer to Camille. Tell me this isn't true. Camille broke. She has everything. What was I supposed to do? You always said I was the special one. You promised. I slid an envelope across the table. Severance agreement, 6 months salary and healthcare coverage, in exchange for a non-disclosure agreement and your resignation. You're paying me to leave? Camille asked, disbelief in her voice. I'm paying you more than you deserve, I replied. More than what was offered to me when I needed help. My father met my eyes for the first time. In his face, I finally saw it, the realization of what they'd created and what they'd lost. My mother died 3 weeks after the board meeting. Despite everything, I was there at the end. The hospital room was quiet except for the rhythm of machines keeping time with her fading heartbeat. My father dozed in the corner chair, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. Camille was nowhere to be found. She'd stopped visiting when my mother refused to defend her actions at the company. I sat beside the bed, not touching, just present. My mother's eyes fluttered open, finding mine in the dim light. Renee, she whispered, her voice papery thin. You came. I said I would. Her fingers trembled on the blanket, reaching. I didn't take her hand. I was wrong about you, she said. So wrong. You were always the strong one. Strength born from necessity, I replied, not choice. She nodded slightly. I should have seen it, your potential, your drive. A tear slipped down her hollow cheek. Forgive me. I looked at this woman who had shaped my life through absence rather than presence. I forgive you, I said, but I don't forget. Her eyes closed. My baby, she murmured. For a moment, hope flickered in my chest, that at the end she finally saw me. Then she finished her thought. Tell Camille I love her, my special girl. Even dying, she couldn't help it. I left the room without another word. 2 days later, she was gone. The will reading was brief, almost cruel in its predictability. They'd left everything to Camille, the few possessions that remained, the life insurance policy, the family heirlooms. But their house had been foreclosed, their bank accounts emptied, their reputation tarnished. My inheritance was a single line. To Renee, we leave our apologies for not seeing your worth sooner. Too little, too late. The following week, I donated exactly $150,000 to establish the Overlooked Daughters Scholarship at State University. The press release specified the amount, matching precisely what the Marshall family had once invested in their eldest daughter's failed Paris education. Local news covered the story extensively. The reporter asked why that specific amount. Let's call it poetic justice, I said. Some investments actually pay off. That Sunday, for the first time in years, my father didn't go to church. He couldn't face the questions. 5 years can change everything, again. My company valuation hit $50 million on my 32nd birthday. Fortune magazine called me the future of sustainable architecture. My designs had reshaped skylines in 12 major cities. I had achieved more than I ever dreamed possible when I'd walked away with garbage bags full of clothes. I rarely thought about my family anymore. My father had moved to Arizona after selling what little remained of their possessions. Camille had disappeared from public view entirely. Until that day at Westfield Mall, I wasn't supposed to be there. My assistant usually handled personal errands, but I needed air, space away from contracts and meetings. So there I was, walking past luxury stores when I saw her, Camille, behind a makeup counter. In a black uniform with a name tag, our eyes met through the glass. She froze, lipstick sample in hand, mid-sentence with a customer. I could have walked past, should have. Instead, I stopped. She excused herself from the customer and stepped around the counter. Renee. Camille. Up close, she looked older than 34. Fine lines around her eyes. Discount clothes carefully maintained to look expensive. Nice store, I said. Pays the bills, she replied. Then, with a small, bitter laugh, I should have been you. I looked at her, this woman who had everything handed to her, who never had to fight, who was told from birth she was special, worthy, destined for greatness. No, I said quietly. You were exactly who they raised you to be. Her eyes filled with tears. And who's that? Someone who can't build anything for herself. I left without looking back. That same evening, a nurse from Arizona called to tell me my father had been visiting my mother's grave daily. Today, he'd brought a newspaper article about my latest building project. He'd read it aloud to the headstone, then wept until he couldn't stand. Should we be concerned? The nurse asked. No, I said. He's just finally seeing what he threw away. The Renee Marshall Foundation launched on what would have been my mother's birthday. $5 million in initial funding. A mission to support students rejected by their own families. Full rides for kids whose parents refused to complete financial aid forms. whose dreams were deemed impractical, who heard you're not worth the investment. The launch event filled the atrium of my newest building, a 40-story glass monument to perseverance. CNN covered it live. I stepped up to the microphone, looking out at 300 guests, reporters, and scholarship recipients. Family isn't about blood, I said. It's about who believes in you when you have nothing to offer except potential. It's about who invests in your dreams without calculating returns. The applause was thunderous, but it was what happened next that changed everything. Caleb Brennan, my first boss, the man who'd given me that internship a decade ago, approached the stage. "May I add something?" he asked, taking the microphone. What Renee doesn't know is why I recognized her talent immediately. The room hushed. My parents disowned me for studying architecture instead of law. I know what it means to build yourself from nothing. I know what it means to be the child no one believed in. He turned to me, eyes shining. "That's why I knew you'd succeed. We recognize our own." 3 months later, we merged our companies. 6 months after that, we married. The morning after our wedding, my assistant brought in the Daily Mail. "Letter from Camille," she said, holding up a cream envelope. "What does the protocol say?" I asked. "All correspondence from family members to be shredded unread." "Then follow protocol." The mechanical whir of the shredder was the final period on a chapter I'd finished writing years ago. Architectural visionary The Renee Marshall Story premiered on my 42nd birthday. The documentary crew had followed me for a year, capturing the empire I'd built over 2 decades. The interviewer, a woman with sharp eyes and sharper questions, waited until the final minutes to ask what everyone wanted to know. "After everything your parents did, choosing your sister, denying your potential, abandoning you when you needed them most, do you forgive them?" The camera zoomed in on my face. "I don't forgive them," I said. "I thank them. Their rejection was my foundation. Every no became a brick in my empire." Last month, my 7-year-old daughter found an old photo while exploring my office. "Mommy, who are these people with you?" I looked at the faded image. My high school graduation, the last photo of us together. "People who made choices," I said, "and missed out on knowing you because of them." "Are they your family?" "No, sweetie. You and Daddy are my family." On my office wall in a gold frame hangs my first bus pass from the night I walked away with nothing. Below it, my company's valuation, $500 million. Success isn't revenge. Success is proof they were wrong. If this story touched something deep inside you, hit that subscribe button now. Then comment "Justice" if you believe the best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting everything they said you never could.